time for Media Watch now, and James Creedon is here with us in the studio. Hello there, James. You've been looking at reactions to the firing or resignation of the former National Security Advisor, Trump's third, John Bolton.
You summed it all up. Maybe I don't even need to... it is basically that online. Was he fired or did he resign? That's kind of what's playing out on Twitter.
Did he push or did he jump or was he pushed?
Right, and I'd say there's two versions to the story and two egos involved, two human beings involved. Donald Trump has fired John Bolton. That's how it was initially reported here in a tweet by the Financial Times, saying he disagreed strongly with many of the National Security Advisor's suggestions. The move comes days after reports that Bolton opposed Trump's plan for a peace deal between the US and the Taliban. So, difference of opinions, time to say goodbye. But actually, this is an interesting one. You had various US networks looking at each other. This is a journalist for CNN who was tuning into Fox News, who noticed that the host got a text message from John Bolton while she was on air, where he was clarifying, no, I resigned. So the guy was looking at TV news coverage and texting news anchors to correct their coverage of...
Sounds very 2019 to me.
This is
and all of this played out on Twitter.
Politicians only sit down, like they just sit down and look at TV news and then tweet about it. That's basically it. Then Donald Trump, of course.
And then the reporters report on the tweets.
That's it.
We all go around in a big circle.
It's very meta. I asked John for his resignation, says Donald Trump on Twitter, which was given to me this morning. I thank John very much for his service. I will be naming a new National Security Advisor next week. So I asked him for his resignation. But of course, John Bolton was insistent that he got in there before.
Because he didn't want the Taliban to come to Camp David.
Right. So I suppose there's a question of timing.
Which you were telling us about just last night.
That's right. So he offered to resign from the White House before Trump fired him. That's his point. Now, some have been going through John Bolton's tweets, saying, well, actually, just before this announcement, he was tweeting, although you could speculate maybe it was his people were tweeting on his behalf. I don't know. But in such a way that it didn't look like he was on the point of standing down. He was talking about it being 2 weeks ahead of the UN General Assembly. You can be sure Iran is working overtime on deception, etc., etc. In other words, he was fully...
ramping up against Iran,
yeah, exactly. He was doing his job with a view to still doing it in 2 weeks' time, at least if you go by the record of his tweets. A lot of people then talking about John Bolton, the controversial man that he is, a National Security Advisor going back. He was, of course, in the Bush administration as well. This is Rolling Stone's summing up of it. Trump tweeted out his firing of John Bolton, who will be missed by a small group of neocon foreign policy thinkers, less so by hundreds of thousands of dead Iraqi civilians. Of course, he was criticised for his key role in the Iraqi war. John Bolton, an effective communicator of extreme hawkish views, is the embodiment of a dangerous ideology. That's that point of view coming through a lot. Others, though, coming in with a slightly different angle on that. Trump basically fired him because he didn't agree with him. But as this piece by Tom Rogan of the Washington Examiner says, the job of a National Security Advisor is not to advocate for the president's ego, to agree with him, but to articulate a range of national security policy options and then advocate for the one he or she believes is best. So some thinking that this could widen foreign policy holes. In other words, you know, with a weakened Foreign Office in the US, that's not the right term, the State Department rather, who basically Donald Trump has more and more weight with fewer and fewer counterweights when it comes to foreign policy. Is that a good thing? Not everyone would think so. Okay,
so he'd rather be surrounded by yes men. And one person who looked really happy about it was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who bizarrely was out there defending Trump's decision to fire his colleague. But anyway, all right, let's move on to another bizarre political situation. The British Parliament has been suspended or prorogued following a move by the Prime Minister for up to 5 weeks during the midst of all this Brexit turmoil. Unprecedented scenes last night where MPs were very angry about, as they see it, being prevented from having their say on Brexit.
Right. Now, of course, so many different policy angles and elements of detail that you could cover on Brexit, but just there was one moment of levity, although it wasn't really levity in the moment, but it became levity in a meme on social media. Parliament's Black Rod has become the internet's new favourite meme. Now, Black Rod is a ceremonial role. It's sort of an usher for the House of Lords, so for any of these ceremonial moments...
House of Commons.
It's House of Commons, indeed. She will make an appearance. Just when you thought you were starting to understand British politics, something or someone called Black Rod enters the scene. And, of course, in particular for non-Brits trying to follow this, Black Rod is not here for your nonsense. I'll just quickly run forward to the final. There was a death stare, you see, and a lot of people feeling death stares are deserved right now. I'll have to wrap on this, I think, but in any case, excited that Black Rod has finally been introduced into the Brexit multiverse. It seemed to fit for something.
Maybe Black Rod can sort it out. All right, James, thank you very much indeed. James Creedon there.